I love a good sale. I'm going to buy these fragrances anyway, so I might as well be getting them 20% off. And during the Sephora sale, I went a little buy happy. I picked up 21 fragrances during that sale alone. And in today's video, I'm going to be ranking everything that I bought. Which ones are full bottle worthy and which ones are better left ignored. I have some opinions, I have some thoughts. All of these have been tested thoroughly. It's been very scientific and I want to share with you the results. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, stick around and let's get into it.
I hope I'm not wasting my time, jumping all the way in too deep. I hope you're not missing.
Hi, this is Jeanique and welcome to my channel. Girl Math dictated that I pick up every single fragrance that I had my good eye on in a travel spray so I could stop myself from blind buying full bottles of everything. So basically I saved money by picking up all 21 of these fragrances. There are fresh fragrances, florals, fruity ones, gourmands in the mix, as well as a few body splashes, all of which are going to be reviewed and ranked in this video, because it's one thing to tell you what it smells like, it's another thing to compare it against a bunch of other shit that is sold at the exact same place to tell you which one is better, because obviously I'm going to tell you what it is. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, you love a perfume journey, a perfume collection video, a perfume review, then please go ahead and subscribe down below. I would appreciate it. And if you've done so already, you're a real one. You make a great life decision, just like me buying these 21 fragrances, obviously. Thank you again for being here. And now, let's get into it.
With your energy in the back of my mind, fantasize about you and me.
I was going to start off with the body splashes because, you know, lighter, airier, a little bit simpler in a lot of ways. But there were more winners in that bunch than this one. So we're going to start off with my bottom tier EDPs and EDTs. And these were mostly disappointing with the exception of one. These were mostly disappointing with the exception of one. Now, the one that was not disappointing is going to have to be Velvet Expressive from Commodity. Now, this is a mostly ambergris fragrance with a little bit of sweetness and a little bit of heliotrope to soften out the edges of this fragrance. Now, this fragrance, it skews a little bit more unisex than I tend to go for, but the fact that it's ambergris and gives a more tobacco-y, smoky kind of vibe means that I am more likely to pick up this as a unisex fragrance than something that is very woody or something that's very aromatic. I think it's a nice enough fragrance. It is not exactly my vibe, not exactly my style. It feels a little bit too cool for me, let me just be honest. But it is a beautiful one if you like sweet, smoky air as an aesthetic, right? I think this feels like a gin joint in the middle of the night while you're out having a good time. It feels like bad decisions and nights out that you're coming in way too late. It is an interesting fragrance that pulls together some feminine aspects, some of those sweeter notes with some more typically masculine ones. And I do enjoy this fragrance, but only in a travel size. The likelihood that I would go for a full size of this is unlikely because I think there are fragrances that pull together some of these notes, specifically By the Fireplace by Maison Margiela and Jazz Club, also by Maison Margiela, that I think do this a little bit more successfully, but this is nice enough. And it's just unfortunate it ended up in this sort of bottom category. There were just other fragrances I liked more. There was nothing wrong with this. It's just not my favorite in all of the fragrances that I picked up this month. Since we're talking about commodity fragrances, there are two other commodity fragrances that fell into my bottom 5, unfortunately. And I feel a little bad saying that because I don't think their fragrances are bad. I just don't think they performed very well when compared to some of the other fragrances that I picked up this time around. And specifically, I want to talk about Gold Expressive and Milk Bold. Let's start off with Milk Bold. First of all, the packaging is not giving what needs to be gave. For me anyway, these things are already peeling off. That was very much a downside for me. I wish these were printed on a little bit better. On top of that, Milk Bold performed like a light floral would. For a fragrance that is so smoky and milky as well as woody, I would expect far better performance, and maybe I set myself up having too high an expectation from this fragrance, but it gave me 3 hours, and with this, the kind of notes this has, it was kind of unacceptable to me. So this is smoky, very smoky, sweet, round, and very lightly milky. Whereas Milk Expressive is creamy, a lot denser, heavier. This one is like a 2% milk, very light with a sort of smoky, round smokiness, really full and sweet and beautiful. I would say the smokiness in this is more refined and better played than Milk Expressive. We'll get into that later because that did a lot better for me. But this one just did not have the longevity I was looking for. I think that sort of disappointment knocked it out of any other category for me because I was pissed off getting only 3 hours when I was wearing Smoke and Woods all day. There is no excuse for that. Now, I am hoping that with a little bit of time, a little bit of maceration, that this will give me more time going forward. But even with that said, this packaging is not it, and I cannot forgive that shit. Now, talking about disappointing, let's talk about Gold Expressive. Now, all the commodity fragrances, Gold Expressive was my second favorite. It's similar to Burberry Goddess, except instead of the lavender note in that fragrance, you have juniper in this, which is a greener, crisper note, which is something I enjoy. I prefer juniper to lavender anyway. The sweetness in this is a lot more restrained, I think, because it's playing to a more unisex audience. It is giving not as sweet as Burberry Goddess, understandable. What ended up happening is I tested this alongside Burberry Goddess, and that was a mistake, maybe, probably, because I realized that I just preferred the sweetness in the other one. And even though I preferred the juniper in this, it was also so restrained that the lavender outshone it in the Burberry Goddess. I think on its own, it's a winner. It is a fantastic everyday vanilla, light, airy, beautiful. But when you compare it to its competition, like Donna from Trisardi and Burberry Goddess even, it ended up just not really standing out among its competition. And that's what I'll say about this. On top of that, this fragrance, again, it may just need a little bit of time to develop, did not perform. I sprayed this on, and within 30 minutes as I was leaving out of the house, I topped up, and by the time I was midway through brunch, it had disappeared again. Now, I don't need a fragrance to give me all day vibes, especially if I know what I'm getting is an everyday sort of lighter vanilla fragrance, but I need you to get me through at least a meal, please, and thanks if I'm going to invest in this fragrance. So for now, at least until it macerates a bit and proves itself to be at least a 3 to 4 hour like vanilla fragrance, this is a no buy for me. Easy. Next up, we have Floral Street's Sweet Almond Blossom. Now, I had mentioned in my Sephora haul that I hadn't tried any Floral Street fragrances. I picked up a sort of sample set, and I'm going to try some more from them. But this happened to be the most popular, and literally that was all I was going off of when I picked this up. That and the fact that it was a tea fragrance, and I stay looking for tea fragrances because I do find that sort of scent profile really comforting. Now, there is nothing off-putting about this fragrance. It's sort of there but not there. It is a factor but also a non-motherfucking factor. There's nothing wrong with it. It is light green tea, maybe chamomile, with a little bit of sweetness, and that's it. It is really shying away from making any kind of bold statements. It's a really subtle tea fragrance that is nice enough. I can see somebody who would like to experiment with tea and isn't sure that they're ready for it, or historically they haven't liked it, might try this and find this nice enough, because I don't find that any aspect of the greenness in here is making any sort of bold moves. It's fine. Is it full bottle worthy? Absolutely fucking not. No, obviously not. But it's not bad. It's nice. I will wear this. I will get my wear out of it. It'll be fine. It's fine. Now we're going to get into the only one in this category that really made me viscerally angry and completely proves the point that you should never go off of your first impression of a fragrance, because it might change drastically as you wear and test it. And the one that sums that shit up is Juliet Has a Gun, Lust for the Fucking Sun. I hate this fragrance with a burning hot passion. It made me angry because I feel like it catfished me and then disappointed me and let my hopes all the way down. Now, if you go back to my Sephora haul video, I sprayed this. It's one of the fragrances I tested in that video just on screen, and based on that first spray on paper, it is a white floral lover's dream. And y'all know how much I love white florals. It's like tuberose and coconut, but it isn't the suntan lotiony coconut. It's like a gourmand coconut means a very full, indolic, delicious smelling. If tuberose can be delicious smelling tuberose together, perfection in terms of a sweeter white floral fragrance that is giving a little bit of a tropical vibe. The opening of this fragrance is fucking perfect, and then they go and ruin it with other shit. I don't know what let's talk about it. So as this fragrance develops, it becomes incredibly powdery. First, it starts off and it gets foggy. I don't know how to describe it. It's not smoky. It isn't powdery. It isn't cloudy. It's foggy. There are a few fragrances that I've tried, some with things like white tobacco in it, that gives more like moving through a fog. It feels sort of wet and dense and cloud-like and really heavy, right? And that is the vibe you start to get with this sweeter mix of coconut. It's nice. It's something I don't have, so I wasn't mad at about the 1 hour mark when it was smelling like that. I was like, okay, it's not what we started out as, but it's still really good. As the fragrance continues to develop, it takes on more and more and more powderiness as it goes. By the time we get close to the dry down, 2, 3, 4 hour mark, all you are smelling is sweet powder, baby powder, talcum powder. It is powderiness on motherfucking 10. Now here's the thing. I can tolerate some powderiness. On the spectrum of, purple florals, with violet being here, iris and orris being in the middle instead of in terms of powderiness, and heliotrope being on the other end, I don't tend to go for floral fragrances that are heliotrope heavy, because I know that level of powderiness is above me. It is above me. Now, heliotrope with gourmands, fantastic. It gives marshmallow, powdered, sugared vibes. Give it to me all day, every day. But if I'm going for a not too sweet floral fragrance, there is literally no scenario where I buy a heliotrope heavy fragrance. I know not to do it. This fragrance does not list heliotrope. It doesn't. It doesn't. And so I didn't realize that what I was getting was heliotrope on fucking steroids. And it pissed me off, because the notes don't suggest it. You need to warn people about that level of powderiness. I was annoyed because the opening and even the first hour was good, y'all. Not just good, it was fucking immaculate. And then they hit us with all the powderiness in the world. By the time it dries down, it smells more like suntan lotion, coconut, and most of the powderiness is gone. But by that point, I didn't fucking care. I didn't. So, Lust for the Sun. One of my most disappointing buys of the entire year. Seriously. But like I said, that level of powderiness in a gourmand fragrance for me is a good thing. So I will layer her. But will I ever wear this on its own, on my body, on purpose ever again? Do I look insane to you? Obviously not. So let's move on. Body splashes, because there were some real winners in the bunch, and I will have to admit my standards when it comes to body splashes is way below the perfumes that are costing $150 for 50 mils, right? So keep that in mind, right? We're not talking the same, but these are still real nice. So let's start off with the number 5, because I actually ranked these specifically. Let's start off with number 5, which is Rio Radiance. Now, on paper, it says this is white florals with a little bit of yellow floral, with a little bit of sand and salt. So I guess the idea is a beachy white floral. It isn't giving that. It's giving more fresh. Like if it was white floral and they had said, I think they say tuberose and gardenia. It's not. It smells closer to like jasmine, lily of the valley. It smells very spa-like. Skin scent with the salt, kind of fresh, a little bit dry. It just smells like your skin, but better, a little bit fresh, a little bit soapy, a little bit green. Now, I don't love an aldehydic smell what is the use of them for the most part? It's not the scent profile I tend to go for, that sort of clean girl kind of fragrance, but it is not a bad one. If you like that sort of thing, here's an inexpensive watery version of that. Now, the fragrance that made in the number 2 spot wasn't intended to be there. It was supposed to be something else. So this started out in number 3 and got dropped down because of another fragrance, which I'll talk about. But Mango Mood ended up not being disappointing. No, the ratings on this fragrance are trash. They are terrible. People seem to hate this fragrance. But I don't take that into consideration whenever I'm looking at mango fragrances, just like I don't take it into consideration when I'm looking at cherry fragrances, because they can be such polarizing notes. Now, you got 2 types of mangoes, right? You got the greener mango that smells more like mango skin, really crisp, very bright, happy kind of fragrance, and then you have the more gourmand mango sorbet kind of mango. The mango sorbet, mad popular. That green mango smell, not as popular. I love green mango smells though. Takes me back to Jamaica. I had a lot of mango trees growing up. And this gives me that a little bit of stem, a little bit of mango skin, very fresh, bright, happy, crisp. It is great for nighttime. I wear this to bed. It feels cozy, lovely. It is not the kind of fragrance I would necessarily wear out. It does not have any real longevity to it. It really disappears very quickly, but for a watery mango fragrance, it is really nice. No, this is very, very, very similar to Wilhelm's mango skin, in that has like a little bit of a crisp sweetness, more of a crisp sweetness in it to it than this one does, but they are very similar and similarly rated because people hate that one as well, and I like that one as well. So yeah, if you love a green fragrance and you love a mangoey green fragrance and you've tried a few and you know you like that scent profile, this is giving that. No, this is a more expensive body splash. When you think about all the body splashes on the market out there, this may not be worth it if you are looking for a bargain, right? But if you, like me, love a very specific kind of mango scent and you are not finding it, test this out to see if it is your vibe. I know it is mine. Like Real Radiance, the first fragrance in this category that I mentioned, the next 3 are also from Sol de Janeiro. Sephora had this sort of 30 ml sample pack. Try some other Sol de Janeiro fragrances that I picked up, and these are from that. Now, I had mentioned previously that I had not tried any other Sol de Janeiro fragrances. I had not felt the need to because I tried 62, fell in love hard, and I was like, it probably can't get any better than this, so what's the point of exploring? But I decided to explore anyway because there was a pack. I love a pack. I love a sample pack. So let's talk about the number 3 one in here, and it is Charoza 68. This was originally number 2 based on smell, but it is now number 68. Now, they say this is grapefruit, no, dragon fruit and jasmine, and I don't know what else. This smells like marshmallows. It's delicious. It smells like candy and marshmallows. Now, if I want to smell like a candy dream to go to bed, which I often do because who doesn't, then you can't go wrong. You know what this kind of reminds me of? I don't know why. It low-key reminds me kind of Cloud from, Ariana Grande. Now, a lot of people will say that reminds you of Baccarat Rouge. Sort of. I get that. There's an aromatic quality about this that reminds me not of Baccarat Rouge necessarily, but of Cloud specifically. Like, were they duping Cloud? A cheaper Cloud? A marshmallowy, even more marshmallowy Cloud? Maybe. This is lovely. It's beautiful, and it's so sweet and marshmallowy and delicious. I would absolutely get a bigger bottle of this and spray myself down every single day. Easy. I layer this with Ari because Ari is a marshmallowy fragrance from Ariana Grande, and layer this with it to just heighten the marshmallow smells. So good. So good. Now, number 40, Charoza 40, which is supposed to be black, amber, plum, and vanilla woods. Was number 4 based on smell. It reminds me, if you've just watched my video on my best of November, I talked about Laura Mercier's Amber Vanilla, which was supposed to be an amber vanilla fragrance. This, y'all, is that, except cheaper. And this was in the number 4 spot because I was like, I prefer the Laura Mercier in terms of how much heavier that is, and the vanilla. I plus it's like a coconut note in that one to like build it out a little bit. This is really just amber and vanilla. They say there's plum, I guess. I don't get much plum. I really get amber and vanilla. They say there's amber and vanilla. That's what I get from this. An ambery vanilla, warm smelling vanilla fragrance. But here is the kicker and why it is in the spot it's in. The longevity on this literally makes no fucking sense. This gave me like 8 hours. How? I sprayed this on to go to bed and I woke up and I could still smell it very pronounced. I washed it off of my body. I do not have those expectations when it comes to body splashes. How can this last so long? Laura Mercier, which is significantly more expensive in terms of cost and all of that good stuff, didn't last as long. Like, it's gone by the time I wake up in the morning, and I wear that one on a regular basis to go to bed, and this is a better buy. Will I rebuy the Laura Mercier now that I've tried this? No. Like, this is legitimately replacing that fragrance. Like, yes, it is more watery, it's not sitting on the skin as heavily, but the performance is, it don't make no sense. Like, how can it last that long? It is an eau fresh. I don't get it. And so for me, if I want an ambery vanilla smell for a bargain, it's gonna be this one, just because it outperformed all my expectations. It's a nice warm ambery vanilla smell, and it's beast mode in terms of performance. I am shocked by that. If you have gotten that out of this fragrance, do I just have a weird ass bottle? I need to know, because I am shocked by the performance of this fragrance and why it jumped from number 4 to number 2 for me, because you are giving me so much for my money if you're going to perform like that. You know what number 1 is. It's obvious. It's Herrera 62. I feel kind of obvious and basic and boring that a fragrance that I came into this process knowing that I loved prevailed. I swear I had an open mind. My mind was wide fucking open. But it's hard to beat pistachio and salted caramel, y'all. It's salted fucking caramel with pistachios. What do you expect? I'm not a magician. I'm not a miracle worker. I am no martyr. This is amazing and I love this. As y'all know, I featured this in my caramel fragrance video, as well as many a perfume tray video, because this stays in rotation as a bedtime scent for me. And this is no exception. What this reinforced is that this is my favorite, and I need to just accept and admit that, like, we're just gonna need to keep buying this down and hope that they come up with an even like family size sprayer, so I won't have to keep buying these low ones. I know they have like 100 ml. I need like 300. I can lift it. I have muscles. So yeah, number 1, Herrera 62. Salted caramel dream, y'all. And it's still the best one that Sol de Janeiro makes, without exception. Now let's get back to perfumes, y'all. The fun bit. The next 5 fragrances are in the middle, lower middle. And so I like these. I don't love them. I think they may be full bottle worthy. Like, the fragrances could grow on me over time. Or if they were discounted enough, they might be worth picking up a full bottle. Or if there was a gap in my collection as far as a type of fragrance, one of these could fill that gap. I'm going to get into these. They are in no particular order. But just to know, all of these were fragrances I enjoyed, but I wasn't head over heels in love with. This one is C notes, aldehydes, iris, and seaweed. This is Maison Margiela's Sailing Day, and I'm starting off with this one because of all the fragrances I picked up from Sephora. This was the least likely because I live by the code fuck aldehydes. But this is an aldehydic fragrance that I not only like, but I like a lot, and I really do appreciate. And because there is this gaping hole in my collection where freshies are meant to live, this is a freshie I would pick up a full bottle of, and this travel size fragrance convinced me of that. Now let's get into this fragrance. Now there are a few ways aldehydes can show up that I can enjoy. One is when it shows up in an animalic fragrance with a lot of carrot seed or civet, and it's a sort of mix of fresh and a little bit nasty together. I get into that hard. The next expression of aldehydes that I appreciate, it's when it's not trying to give soapy, but it's more trying to give sea air. Here we go. This is a fragrance that smells fresh, but not get out of the shower soapy fresh, or cleaning the house fresh, or laundry fresh. It is sea air on a boat fresh, and it's just a crisp smell of outdoor air. And for me, that is the way freshness should be done in my collection. I really enjoy this fragrance, especially because it fills a gap for me that I sometimes have, that I sometimes want to fill, and I think this might be the one to do it, but maybe when summer rolls around. No, the seaweed in here smells, I wouldn't say it smells fishy, but it has a kind of restrained greenness, wateriness. Like it smells like salty air when you're outside and you're smelling the sand and the ocean. It's not perfectly clean, but it does smell really fresh, and that's what this fragrance gives. Next up is Burberry Goddess. Now, I've talked about this perfume before, specifically in my perfume roulette video from back in September when I was testing fragrances, and I wanted to pick up the travel size to give myself a bit more time with the fragrance versus just a 2 ml tester. And I'm happy I picked this up. It is a nice, cleaner take on vanilla, and it's not as gourmand as its notes would suggest. So let's talk about it. There's a lot of vanillas in here. I think there's Vanilla Absolute and Bourbon Vanilla and Vanille, all the vanilles, right? But that's not what you get here. The lavender in here is sort of towing the line between a sort of gourmandy lavender and a fresher, soapier lavender. You know, the kind of lavender you might find in like tea. It smells a little soapy, but it sort of smells like food as well. That is the lavender in here, and they don't hold back. It's very pronounced, and that keeps the vanilla in here from ever feeling very gourmand, because the lavender reins it into this fresher place. And so the fragrance feels like it's saying something. I'm a fresh, clean vanilla smell. It is very airy. It is a beautiful one. It's an everyday type of vanilla fragrance with a little bit more personality. Nothing that screams, nothing that yells. It is especially good in the dry down. It gets a lot heavier and thicker. The cacao comes through a lot more, cuts through some of the sweetness, makes it a little bit more gourmand, and it is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful dry down. So I will say, if I got this at the right price, it might make its way into my collection as another great everyday vanilla that I can wear, especially in the spring and summertime. But am I falling over myself to grab it? No, because I can live without it, at least for now. Next, I want to talk about my 2 7 Virtues fragrances from this haul, because they ended up in sort of the middle of the pack. I really like both of these, but like the Burberry Goddess, I'm not tripping over myself to get a full-size bottle. It's a like, it's not a love, but it could become a love with enough wears. So I'm going to start off with Cherry Ambition. I prefer Blackberry Lily. I'll get into why, but we'll start off with Cherry Ambition since it lost between the two, I guess. So I thought I was going to be obsessed with Cherry Ambition because I stay looking for cherry fragrances. There's no such thing as too much cherry in your life, and I will smell out, sniff out cherry in other things like tonka and amaretto, looking for a little bit of cherry nuance because I find it to be an incredibly sexy note. The fruit in here doesn't really smell like cherry to me at all. It smells like mango to me. And as a mango connoisseur as well, stay looking for mango. I get a fix out of this anyway. So even if it's not quite cherry to my nose, I still get a fruit I really, really enjoy, mango. Now in the base, I don't know what they say it is. It's supposed to be a kind of smokiness. And I went in thinking, is it going to be tobacco or ambergris or vetiver? What kind of smokiness are they about to give me? The smokiness in here is barely there to me. And it sort of smells like, I don't know, like tar or industrial smoke that's really far away. And you sort of get like a kind of sense of it from where you are. It's there, but it's not really, right? So there is a version of this fragrance that I am obsessed with, the one where they give us all the smoke and all that fucking sexy ass cherry, but instead we get this more restrained version of everything. And it's nice, it's pretty, it's respectable, but it's not exactly exciting. So I like Cherry Ambition. It may be full bottle worthy if it's, 30 to 60% off, but at full price, I'm a pass on this. But I'm excited to have this travel size, fragrance for now. I'm going to hope that over time it becomes a little bit dirtier because I would very much enjoy that. No, I find this, even though it's called Blackberry Lily, that the lily in here isn't sort of the full expression of lily that you can sometimes get. What we're really getting is the leafy greenness we can sometimes get from lily that is earthy and sharp and smells like the outdoors. We get that. But for the most part, this is a blackberry fragrance. It is a fruit fragrance. And that for me feels like summer on 10. I love that. It smells like a juicy, how you can bite into blackberries and it's real sour, a little bit tart. It's bursting with freshness. It feels like summer because when else are you gonna get perfectly plump blackberries? This feels like a summer fragrance, height of summer, beautiful. There is a bit of, I think, a vetiver in the base that really isn't giving smokiness at all. It is more making it cloudy so you can get enveloped in all of that fresh sweetness. So if you love a tart, greener but sweet at times kind of fragrance, mixing together fresher but also intense elements all at the same time, then this does that. You have to love Lily of the Valley though, and not the sort of full florally elements, but the greener elements that Lily of the Valley sometimes give is very, very pronounced in here. And for me, that makes this a lovely height of summer fragrance. I'm always surprised by how long this next one lasts. For all of its sweetness and creaminess, it just keeps on going and going. And it doesn't really mellow. It doesn't let up. And that for me is such a get with this fragrance. And it is Commodity Milk Expressive. It is this beautiful mix of this creamy vanilla with a marshmallow note to it. You get that powdered sugar, you get the sweetness, the creaminess. There are some spices in here that add a bit of dimension and it adds another dynamic to the fragrance that makes it so stunning, so beautiful, and why people love it so much. Now, in the base of this fragrance, we get a woody note, a dark wood. I would say maybe ebony, something like that, that reads almost like bitter coffee, but it smells burnt, like burnt wood or sweet burned air in a lot of ways that can feel a little challenging and a little sharp. And over top of that, the sugar in here, it can feel not just caramelized or brown, but sugar that's been overdone and turned black. And it has this sort of sharpness, brashness in the back of it that can be a little bit hard to take. This fragrance in some ways feels like a soft place to land. It is round, it is full, it is sweet, but there are aspects of this fragrance that are cutting and sharp and a little bit heavy. And it feels like in a lot of ways it is contradicting itself. And that makes it really interesting, but it doesn't make it an easy wear for me. So a lot of days I wake up and I like milk. I want to smell like milk. But then there are others I think I cannot deal. I cannot do it. It's a lot. It's too much. But I really do appreciate this fragrance for everything that it is doing. And the longer I have had it, because I had a travel size before this one, the longer I've had it, the more that I've worn it, the more I have come to appreciate what it is giving and how beautiful and interesting it is. So we still have the top fragrance of all of the ones that I picked up during the Sephora sale, the one Don Dada of the bunch to come. But before we get there, we have the top 5. The 5 fragrances at the very top that I think are full bottle worthy, at least for me. And you might say to me, oh my God, that's so lucky. You already have a full bottle of one of them. I know, right? I just make such great perfume choices. We're going to talk about all of them. They're in no particular order, but I loved all of these and I want all of them full bottle and all. Yeah. Next Indigo for me was a love, not a like. From the moment I tested it in that Sephora haul video to now having worn it several times, I can say that as a tea fragrance lover, somebody who loves something a little bit earthier, greener, maybe a little savory, this hits all the marks for me. It smells crisp, it smells earthy, it smells beautiful. Now, it's not as heavy as you might expect. You hear green tea, you hear mate, you hear earthy, you hear savory, and you start to think it's this sort of overwhelming greenness that sort of takes up your whole body, your whole space. But it doesn't do that. There's a real freshness and lightness to it. It's not a very warm fragrance, right? It smells cool to me. So it smells like a fall day where it's still breezy and airy, but you're getting those smell of leaves coming in with a sort of undercurrent of mintiness and freshness to it that is really, really beautiful. This is a fragrance you wear on a rainy day or even when it is sunny out and you want freshness without going soapy. This is beautiful. This hit all the marks for me as far as tea fragrances go. It's what the Floral Street wanted to be and wasn't. This did it better and I love her. This feels like a very different fragrance than Nest Indigo, and this is Donna Born Aroma Intense from Valentino. And the word that comes to mind whenever I wear this fragrance is it's pretty. It's pretty. That's what it is. Now, I had tested this fragrance, I want to say my perfume samples video from back in September. If it's not in that video, I'll link the one that it is, the one that I did talk about it. About the fact that I wasn't sure it was better than the original. I've decided it is. I love it more. Here's why. It takes a lot more chances in my opinion, and it makes some very bold choices in terms of the notes. Now, the notes in here as they're listed on Fragrantica seem very stripped back, very simple, very basic. They're not giving the notes on there the way that you might think. It's a far more complex smelling fragrance than those notes would suggest. I would say on the face of it, there is a dark fruit in here, maybe something like plum, really rich and sticky sweet with a bit of tartness to it. There is an airy and very sweet caramelized vanilla in here that has a bit of richness and fullness, airiness. There's just pockets of air in this fragrance that are fantastic. There's a very, very pronounced jasmine in this that cuts through the bullshit, cuts through the sweetness, and gives something that is really sharp and bold and takes no prisoners. And it comes together in a way that is just really appealing, really sexy, really outgoing, feels ultra feminine, and feels rich as fuck. I love this fragrance with a deep hot passion. I've talked about Yum Pistachio Gelato a few times, specifically over the summer when I first tested it. And I talked about how a lot of the gourmand girlies were not here for it because it did skew a lot more floral than you might expect or than the name might suggest. Is the performance still a fucking mess? It is. It gives 2 to maybe 4 hours on a good day. If you layer it with things like Musk 12, you get a bit of a better performance, but it isn't giving you the time, the longevity that you would want. So I walk around with it and I just keep re-upping, and I plan to keep doing that. I had to fight with myself not to just buy the full bottle off rip, and I do have a few regrets about not picking it up because I knew I wanted it because I had stayed wearing it before and I knew I loved it, and you know, whatever, next Sephora sale, whatever, I don't care. Anyway, let's talk about this fragrance, y'all. It starts off a lot more tart than the name would suggest or you might expect. It's a heavy dose of bergamot. It opens up fresh and lively. It's like that's like spring air. It's a little bit of greenness to it. It is beautiful. They, I think, say pepper and things are in the opening, or I think rum and ice cream. I don't get any of that. None of those gourmand elements hit me in the opening of this fragrance. It is mostly green and citrus and fresh and absolutely stunning, absolutely beautiful. I love jasmine, yes I do, and that is Lily of the Valley, and jasmine is in here doing a lot of that floral work, keeping it from being perfectly gourmand. I am not mad at that. As a matter of fact, I welcome it. Yes, thank you, please. But it does become more gourmand as it dries down, and it gets creamier and sweeter for the bulk of the wear of this fragrance. Yes, I wish it lasted longer. We all do. But for the perfection that is this smell, I will live with it, and I will absolutely buy a full bottle next Sephora sale. I have so many regrets about just not picking up the full bottle. I played myself this time around, but I will enjoy the travel size for now. Beautiful mix of florals, citrus, and gourmand elements in a way that is pretty close to perfection in my opinion. This next fragrance was maybe my most positive surprise of all of the fragrances that I tried, because I tested this fragrance before, a little 2 ml sample, and came away liking it but mostly being underwhelmed, and it is Devotion from Dolce & Gabbana. Now, I've mentioned before, I love me a Dolce & Gabbana white floral. I think they do them brilliantly. Whenever I hear Dolce & Gabbana is coming out with a new white floral, I need to test it because I expect really beautiful things. They do things with orange blossom that make my little white floral lover heart weep. They just do it so well, right? Right. I tried this fragrance and I thought it's mostly citrus. Where is the white floral? They played in my face, not giving me more white floral. The more I wear it though, the more I grow to appreciate and even love this fragrance for what it is giving. So let's go through it. The citrus in here isn't citrus. It isn't tart. It isn't sour at all. It is candied lemon. It smells like a sweetie. It is crisply sweet. You'd expect something fresh, sour, tart, maybe to open up a fragrance and invite you in. Instead, you get this really crisp sweetness instead. You also have a lot of white florals in here. Most of the work is being done by orange blossom, really full, really big, but it is a kind of orange blossom that is easy to enjoy for non-white floral lovers. It is a safe white floral that doesn't have all of those indolic elements that can be so controversial, and that makes the fragrance feel a little bit safer, but it's still very enjoyable. It also has this panna cotta note with a vanilla that brings it in a more gourmand direction. Y'all, it feels like butter. It's just really soft and enveloping, and it just feels really lush. You sort of fall into these sort of pillowy, soft, smooth, delicious smells, and you never want to get up, you never want to get out of it. Before we get to the best of the bunch, let's talk about Good Girl Supreme Vanilla meets tuberose in the most like sexy, sensual way as possible. I absolutely love this fragrance. Y'all know how I feel about tuberose. Y'all know. Now, here's the thing. There's a reason tuberose is called the carnal flower. It very often reads really sexy and sensual in what it is giving, and that is what this fragrance is doing. This is the anniversary fragrance. This is the third date fragrance. This is really voluptuous, and you know what it reminds me of? When I spray this fragrance, like I did just now, the sort of image it conjures in my mind is Selma Hayek, right? In From Dusk Till Dawn, doing that snake dance in the vampire club. You know, that image of her coming out with the snake. You're like, Does it get hotter than that? And can I be that someday? The answer is no, Jeanique. You're not fucking Selma Hayek. But, this gives that kind of sensual vibe. Now, I will say, it is this really thick, heavy tuberose coming through with all of that indelicatness that you either love or hate. There's vanilla in here that isn't too sweet, but it's really round and creamy. Do I wish it were a toops little sweeter? I would take that, I would, but in its current form, it is mostly tuberose backed up by that vanilla, and I love that for me and for this fragrance. Yeah, one of my favorite Good Girls. No, in the base you have a little bit of vetiver, just a little bit, that makes it feel a little bit more mysterious, a little bit different, a little bit rounder. Now this fragrance isn't doing anything revolutionary. There are fragrances that are in good company with this. I would say Dolce & Gabbana, the only one intense that has more than the tuberose. It has other white florals like orange blossom doing a whole lot of sensual work, similar but different, more floral, less vanillic in the only one intense. Or Dior Addict, that brings in a heavier, sweeter vanilla with some warm spices, takes this in a more vanilla spicy direction that I also think is real sexy and real fire. But this is a tuberose lover's dream that it encourages a little, it invites a little vanilla in without letting it take over like vanilla sometimes can do. So the best fragrance that I hauled from the Sephora sale of all of the 21 fragrances I picked up has to be Jo Malone's Ginger Biscuit. Hear me out. I was expecting this to be mid-tier. I was expecting this to be good, but mildly disappointing, because whenever a fragrance is this hyped up, I set myself up to be disappointed, because how can it live up to my expectations when I've heard all of these wonderful things about it? It overshot the fucking mark, y'all. Y'all need to listen to me. This fragrance, if you love ginger, is perfect. If you love ginger, and I'm gonna take you through the roller coaster or the ride that this took me on, and this kind of explain why I love this so much. Hear me out. When you first spray it, when you first spray it, boom, right? It is this photorealistic smell of sharp ginger. It is not ginger perfume. It smells gingery and then fades to ginger perfume. You get it. It is intense. It is right in your face. It is beautiful. You gotta love the smell of ginger. It is not holding back at all. Then when it for the first like hour of this fragrance, 30 minutes to an hour, what it smells like ginger beer, right? Ginger beer, if you've poured it over ice and you are getting the bubbles bursting and wafting up at you, right? It is sparkling, it is fun, it is cool smelling, it is bright, it is a little bit fresh, it's a little bit watery, it is sweet, it smells like ginger soda. It is stunning, it is so happy, it is such a good time. Loved that. Then as it begins to settle, y'all, it becomes ginger root. Peppery, really strong. A lot of the happy, sparkly sweetness has sort of retreated to the background, and you're getting like steeped ginger tea that has just been sitting. It is really intense, a little bit over the top. For me, yes, thank you. It's not just do you love the smell of ginger, it's do you want to smell like ginger tea without without a lot of sugar? Do you want to smell like that? That is the question, because that's the question you need to answer. And for me personally, yes, absolutely. But as it develops, it becomes ginger biscuit. No, it's more ginger cookies, right? There's something yeasty and doughy about the ginger. It feels not just fluffy, but kind of dense, right? The ginger is sort of blunted by all of these sort of heavier notes that sort of encases it. And it smells really warm and like family and Christmas. And it just smells really cozy. That's the vibe. The dry down of this, it's ginger biscuit. It is like the snapping cookies, but dark brown. Like the caramelization has gone a little bit too far and it's overly sweet. And so what you're mostly getting in the dry down is caramel with hints of ginger. Y'all, this is a ginger roller coaster. That is what this is. This is a ginger roller coaster. No. I was looking for a reason to hate on it. I don't know why, but I was. I don't know why. I can be a hater sometimes. And I was expecting this fragrance to not last on me very long. I thought I would get maybe 4 hours, because y'all know how these Jo Malone fragrances do. Y'all know. No, I got about 6 hours wear out of this fragrance, far and away on all levels, by all sorts of parameters, metrics that I could use to judge a fragrance. But the main parameter is love. And I love this. I love it. I wouldn't change anything about it. I always have notes. I always have an opinion. I always have a couple of things that I would adjust. I wouldn't change a thing in this. It is gingery perfection to me. And I'm always just a little, ever so slightly disappointed with most ginger fragrances, because I don't get all the ginger. I get, peppery ginger, but I didn't get some sweet ginger too. And I want all the ginger all the same time, and that's not possible, except it is apparently possible to have all the gingery types as a roller coaster ride in one bottle, and I have it, and I will never not have it ever again. So yes, ginger biscuit cologne from Jo Malone, giving me 6 hours of gingery goodness, from ginger beer to ginger tea to ginger cookies to ginger biscuits at the final play, and all of it was fun, exciting, delicious. I loved it. And my favorite fragrance of everything that I bought during the Sephora sale, including skincare and makeup. This was my favorite by far. So that was everything. 21 fragrances that I picked up during the Sephora sale. Was it a little unhinged? Absolutely fucking not. And why would you ever think so? It was totally reasonable to pick up that many fragrances and test them in the month of November, to show up today to let you know what I thought. And most of these were winners. Even the ones in the bottom 5. There were a few in there, like Velvet, that I would absolutely accept as a gift, as a full-size bottle. Would I buy? Probably not. But I would wear it if somebody gave it to me. And that right there says a lot. It means I picked well, because I'm great at picking fragrances, basically. Thank you so much for watching this video and hanging out with me for probably what is a very long video, because there's so many fragrances to talk about. And this is a fun one for me, because I've been waiting to make this video for the whole while I've been sick. And now I'm back and I could talk about it, and I'm excited to do so. And yeah, I made some great choices, y'all. Yeah, and I will see you in the next one, the next video. I will see you soon. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Come back for the next one, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye.
Don't know when it started. It feels as natural as drinking water. Learning my lessons, but still looking for some trouble.